A rich prince and a poor fairy. A story of tea and dreams. A wealthy man, CEO of a big company, sat in the back seat of his car as it sped down an empty highway. His name was Arman Shah. He ran a corporation that sold everything from luxury real estate to imported cars. He didn't believe in excuses, delays, or surprises. His schedule was always tight, his watch always expensive, and his mind always racing ahead of everyone else. He looked at his phone. 4 missed calls. A meeting was waiting at the city's biggest hotel. International investors ready to pour millions more into his next project. He dictated short, cold replies to his assistant. His driver, a quiet man named Arman, kept his eyes on the broken road ahead. "Speed up," Arman said, not looking up from his phone. Arman glanced at the fuel gauge. "Sir, we need to refuel soon." Arman didn't answer. He finished a call and checked his watch instead. His mind was already in the conference room. Slides deals, the moment when he'd shake hands and add another 0 to his worth. 10 minutes later, the car started to slow down. The highway had turned rough, lined with dried fields and empty trees. Arman tapped the brakes. "Sir, we're nearly out." Arman closed his laptop. "Where's the next proper stop?" Arman pointed ahead. "Nothing for miles. Just that place." Arman looked up. On the left side of the road, half hidden behind an old wooden fence, was a rundown roadside café. The paint was peeling off the signboard. One dusty bulb hung above the door. There was no name he could see, just faded letters that meant nothing to him. He frowned. You expect me to get coffee there?" Arman parked anyway. "We have no choice, sir." Arman hated the idea of stepping out, but he hated wasting time even more. He grabbed his phone, checked for signal. Nothing. He stepped out. The hot wind hit his face. The air smelled like dust and old oil. He pushed the half-open door. A small bell jingled weakly. Inside, it was dim with cracked walls and a single fan spinning so slowly it might as well be dead. There were 4 tables, all empty. No customers. No sound. Except he heard a small humming, a tune soft and childish. He stepped forward. Behind the wooden counter, standing on her toes to reach a shelf, was a little girl, no more than 10 or 11. She was trying to stack cups one over the other, her small fingers working carefully. Arman knocked on the counter with his knuckles. "Hey, where's the staff?" The girl turned so fast one cup almost slipped. She caught it with both hands and pressed it to her chest. She had wide eyes and a thin smile that tried to look brave. "Hello, sir," she said softly. "No staff, only me." He blinked. "You?" "Yes, sir. What would you like?" Arman looked around again. There was no menu, no smell of fresh food, no sign of another human. He glanced behind her. A curtain, probably hiding a small kitchen. "Where's the owner?" he asked. "My mother," she said. "She's resting. She's sick." He exhaled, annoyed. He tapped his phone. Still no signal. He had to keep moving, but hunger poked at him. His last meal was 6 hours ago. "Fine. Coffee. Make it quick." The girl nodded. She gently put the cup down, climbed off the stool, and disappeared behind the curtain. Arman sat down at the nearest table. The chair wobbled under his weight. He looked at his shoes. A tiny layer of dust covered the leather. He hated that. He glanced around again. An old clock ticked above the counter. A faded calendar showed the wrong month. On one wall, there were 2 photographs. One of a woman standing outside the same cafe, smiling, and another of a little girl holding a large bowl. He guessed it was her. Minutes passed. Arman tapped the table. He could hear her small hands working in the back, opening a tin, pouring water, stirring. The smell drifted in. Weak, not the rich coffee aroma he was used to. He sighed. When she came out, she was balancing a single chipped cup on a steel tray. She moved slowly so it wouldn't spill. She reached his table and placed it in front of him carefully. "Here you go, sir," she said. He looked at it. The coffee was watery, too light in color. He knew it would taste terrible, but he picked it up anyway and took a sip. It was worse than he expected, bitter, thin, no sugar. He put the cup down. "You call this coffee?" he asked, almost to himself. She stood there, hands clasped in front of her. "Sorry, sir. We don't have good coffee beans, or fresh milk. Sugar is almost finished too." He stared at her. She looked down at her toes, shifting her weight from one foot to the other. She wasn't afraid, just waiting. You shouldn't be here alone, he said after a moment. She lifted her head. Mama is in the back room. I check on her every hour. She sleeps a lot. What's your name? He asked. She smiled shyly. Maya. Maya, he repeated, as if testing the word. Do you go to school? She shook her head. Mama says maybe next year. He frowned. Why not now? She just shrugged. She didn't know how to explain it, or maybe she didn't want to. He could guess why. Money. Time. No help. He leaned back in the chair, trying to convince himself to stand up and leave. He looked at the cup again, took another sip out of habit. Still bad. How much for this? He asked. Maya looked confused. You didn't drink it? I did, he said. So how much? She paused. 20 rupees, sir. He almost laughed. His wristwatch cost more than what this cafe might earn in a week. He pulled out his wallet, flipped through notes, took out a 1,000-rupee note, and placed it on the table. She stared at it. Sir, I don't have change. Keep it? Her eyes widened. But it's too much for one coffee. He looked her straight in the eyes. Then buy sugar. Buy good coffee beans. She held the note in both hands. She didn't fold it or pocket it, just looked at it like it was something magical. Then she looked at him again. Thank you, sir. He stood up. He had to go. His driver would be waiting. The investors were waiting. The world was waiting. But his feet didn't move. He found himself asking, You work here every day? Maya nodded. Before Mama used to, I help now. People don't stop much. He glanced at the broken sign outside the window. The paint, the missing letters. Why don't people stop? No money, she said simply. Truck drivers stop sometimes. But they don't have much either. Silence. He didn't like silence. In his world, silence meant deals were dead, meetings gone cold, money lost. But here, the silence felt different. It pressed into his chest in a way he didn't understand. You should be in school, he said again, softer this time. She tilted her head. Why? Who will make tea? Her question hit him harder than he expected. He had no answer. He just nodded once like he understood. Though he didn't, not really. Maya turned and hurried back behind the counter. She picked up the stool again and climbed up to fix the cups. He watched her small hands work. One cup slipped. She grabbed it just in time, giggled to herself, then checked if he was still watching. When she saw him looking, she smiled, a shy, small smile that made his chest tighten. He checked his phone again. Still dead. He put it away. He stood by the counter now. Is your mother awake? Maya shook her head. Sleeping. She coughs a lot when she wakes up. You take care of her alone. She nodded. I can cook rice and eggs. Sometimes I make soup. And money? He asked. She looked at the note in her hand. Now we have this. He didn't know what else to say. He slipped his hands into his pockets. He had to leave, but something made him stand there longer. Maya? Yes, sir? He tried to smile, but it felt strange on his face. Be careful, okay? She nodded, serious. Okay. He turned to the door, pushed it open, hot wind again. He stepped outside. Riemann was by the car, wiping the windshield with a cloth. He saw Arman coming and opened the back door for him. Arman sat down, closed the door, but didn't tell him to drive yet. He looked back at the cafe. Through the dusty window, he could see Maya wiping the same table he had sat at, humming her little tune again. Riemann cleared his throat. All good, sir. Arman didn't answer at first. He kept his eyes on the window until Maya disappeared behind the curtain. Let's go, he said finally. The car pulled away slowly. The cafe grew smaller in the side mirror, a shape of wood and rust and chipped paint. But inside that broken place was a girl wiping tables, pouring watery coffee, and taking care of her mother when no one else would. His phone beeped suddenly, a weak signal. Notifications flooded in. He looked at the screen, missed calls, new messages, reminders, deals, numbers, urgency. He should feel relief. But he didn't. He scrolled through the messages anyway. One from his assistant, clients waiting, should we reschedule? Another from his partner, where are you? We can't hold them much longer. He typed one word back, coming. He pocketed the phone, leaned back and closed his eyes. The hum of the road, the soft rattle of the old car. His world of glass towers and shiny lobbies felt far away. For the first time in years, Maya's tiny smile stayed in his mind. The chipped cup, the dirty counter, the thin hands holding a broom like it was something precious. One coffee he didn't even drink, and somehow it had left a bigger mark than all the dinners with investors. He didn't know why, but he knew he'd stop again. Arman Shah didn't mention the roadside cafe to anyone that day. When he reached the city, he walked straight into the hotel conference room like nothing happened. His assistant, Faraz, handed him a folder, whispering last-minute updates. The investors, 3 men in dark suits and shiny watches, were waiting at the long glass table, smiling politely. Arman sat down at the head. He opened the folder but didn't read it. Numbers danced in front of his eyes, but his mind was still stuck somewhere on that dusty road, where a little girl with small hands poured him bad coffee and called him, "Sir." Faraz leaned close and murmured, "Sir, they're offering 10% more equity. Should I push for 15? Arman blinked. "Do whatever you think is right," he said quietly. Faraz stared at him. This wasn't the answer he expected, but he nodded and turned back to the investors, switching to smooth English, wrapping big words around the real goal: more money, less risk, maximum gain. Arman watched their lips move but didn't hear half of it. He saw Maya's small smile instead. The way she held that 1,000-rupee note like a treasure. He wondered if she'd bought sugar yet, or better coffee beans, or if she'd hidden it under her mother's pillow. One of the investors leaned forward. "Mr. Shah, do we have a deal?" Arman looked at him, then at the offer sheet in front of him. He signed it without reading. "Deal." They all shook hands, smiling wider now. Faraz gave him a quick glance. Something was off, but he stayed silent. The meeting ended fast. Photos, handshakes, a few forced laughs. Then the investors left, satisfied with the fresh signature that meant another luxury tower would rise in the city's skyline. Faraz closed the door after them. He turned back to his boss. "Sir, are you feeling well?" Arman loosened his tie. "I'm fine. You don't look fine." Faraz hesitated. Did something happen on the road? Arman didn't answer. He grabbed his phone instead and typed a note: find location, roadside cafe, old highway, west side, need exact address. He saved it but didn't send it yet. Faraz's voice broke through. "Sir, forget it," Arman said. He stood up, brushed past Faraz, and walked out of the conference room into the lobby filled with marble and polite music. Outside, the sun was setting behind glass towers. The next day, Arman sat at his office window, staring at the skyline he'd built piece by piece. He had meetings all morning, contractors, lawyers, a charity dinner someone had forced onto his calendar, but his mind wasn't on any of it. He picked up his phone. The unsent note was still there. He hit send this time. Within an hour, Faraz knocked on his door. "Sir, I found it. Small cafe by the West Highway. No signboard name. Some people call it Maya Cafe because of the girl." Arman turned his chair slowly. "People know her." Faraz shrugged. "Truck drivers mostly. I spoke to a gas station nearby. They said the girl runs it alone. Her mother's sick. Father left years ago. That's all anyone knows." Arman felt something tighten in his chest. He hated that feeling. He was used to power, not helplessness. Faraz cleared his throat. "Do you want me to arrange something? Charity? Government help?" Arman shook his head. "No." He paused. "But find out if there's a local doctor, someone she trusts, quietly. Don't send media. Don't put my name anywhere." Faraz nodded, a bit confused. He'd never seen his boss do anything quietly. "I'll handle it, sir." When Faraz left, Arman closed his eyes. He could still hear Maya's small voice. "Ooh, we'll make tea." Ooh, a week passed. Arman didn't go back to the cafe, but he thought about it every night. The broken sign, the cracked cups, the dry piece of bread the girl offered him for free. He wondered if she'd even used the money. He wondered if she remembered him at all. One evening, he sat alone in his big living room. Glass walls, leather sofa, soft lights. His phone buzzed. It was Faraz again. "Sir," Faraz said carefully, "I spoke to the doctor near the village. He's visiting the café. The mother needs proper medicine. They're poor, but the girl is handling everything. Doctor says she's smart. Keeps track of medicine doses better than adults. Arman didn't reply. He stared out the window at the city lights. "Should we do more?" Faraz asked. Arman said only one thing. "Pay the doctor for the next 6 months, cash, no receipts, no name." "Understood, sir." He cut the call. He set the phone down, pressed his fingers to his temples. He could fix billion-dollar deals, but he couldn't fix one broken cafe. Not really. A month later, his car turned onto the same highway. He didn't tell Faraz. He didn't tell his board. He just told Riemann, "Drive west." The old wooden sign looked even more broken in the daylight. The same dusty bulb. Same cracked door. Arman stepped out and pushed it open. The weak bell rang again. Maya was behind the counter, standing on her stool. This time when she saw him, she broke into a big grin. "Sir! You came back?" He almost smiled back. Almost. "How's the coffee today?" She giggled. "Better. I bought new beans. And sugar. And fresh milk. You want some?" "Yes," he said. "Make it strong." She disappeared behind the curtain. He sat at the same wobbly table. He looked around. Someone had wiped the dust off the clock. A new calendar hung beside it. The right month this time. She returned with the cup. The steam rose properly this time. It smelled real. Rich. She stood proudly. "Taste it." He sipped it. It wasn't perfect, but it was good. Better than before. He nodded once. "Good." She clapped her hands softly, trying not to wake someone in the back. "Mama says thank you. For the doctor. He comes every week now." Mama sits up sometimes. She smiles more. He didn't say he paid for it. He just said, "I'm glad." She sat down on the chair opposite him. Bold this time. "Why did you come back?" He looked at her small hands folded on the table. "I wanted to see if you're okay." She beamed. "I'm okay." They sat like that for a while. He drank the coffee. She told him small stories. How she learned to cook rice without burning it, how a truck driver gave her a pack of biscuits, how she wants to paint the cafe door one day, bright yellow so people will see it from the road. He asked, "Will you go to school this year?" She nodded eagerly. "Next month? Mama says she can manage while I go for half days. Then I come back and help?" He stared at her, so small, yet so sure of her duty. So different from the children he saw in city schools, fussing over new bags and fancy lunch boxes. She said suddenly, "Sir, are you rich?" He almost laughed. "You asked me that before." She tilted her head. "Did you get richer since then?" "Maybe," he said. She giggled again. "Then can you help me paint the door? Yellow paint costs money." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a note. She shook her head. "No, not like that. I mean, can you come help me?" With a brush. He didn't know what to say. Arman Shah, who signed papers worth millions with one pen stroke, was being asked to hold a paintbrush by a 10-year-old. He didn't promise. He never promised. But that day he said, "Maybe." Her smile was worth more than any deal he'd ever closed. To the next morning, Arman Shah sat in his office with his phone in his hand. He stared at the screen like it might tell him what to do. He was supposed to be reading a contract worth $30 million. Instead, he opened a map app and zoomed in on that broken cafe by the highway. Faraz knocked once and entered. "Sir, the lawyer is here to finalize the Mall Square deal." Arman locked his phone. "Tell him to wait." Faraz blinked. "Sir, you have to sign today. We'll lose the window." 10 minutes, Arman said. He stood up, grabbed his coat, and walked past Faraz without explaining. He didn't owe anyone an explanation. He was Arman Shah, the man people said yes to before he even finished a sentence. But outside in his car, the only word ringing in his head was yellow. Maya's voice, bright as sunlight. "Can you help me paint the door?" He called Raymond, his driver. "I'm going myself today." "Sir, take the day off." He got behind the wheel for the first time in years. No tinted glass, no security, just him, a plain shirt, and the highway that always seemed to lead back to that tiny cafe. The road was emptier this time. He liked that. He drove slow, letting the wind slip through the half-open window. He saw old trees, dusty fields, small tea stalls. For a moment, he wondered what it would be like to stop at every broken shop and ask, "Do you need anything?" But he wasn't that man. Or maybe he didn't know who he was anymore. The cafe appeared like a memory that refused to fade. Bent sign, rusty tin roof, a cracked bucket by the door. He parked the car a little away and stepped out, dust catching on his shoes. The door was open today. He could hear Maya humming some old tune. When he peeked inside, she was on a stool again, trying to reach a shelf. She saw him and her face lit up like it always did. "You came back. You said yellow paint," he said. "Do you have it?" She held up a tiny tin half full, like it was gold. "One customer gave me half a can, but it's not enough for the whole door. I thought maybe you'd bring more." He raised an eyebrow. "I didn't promise." She stuck her tongue out playfully. "But you're here, aren't you?" He laughed under his breath. Short, rough, the kind he hadn't done in years. He glanced around. "Where's your mother?" "Sleeping," Maya said softly. "She's better today. She asked if you'd come back." I said yes. "I knew it." He looked at the door. Flakes of old paint clung to the wood. It looked like it hadn't seen a fresh coat in 10 years. Maya handed him a brush. It was tiny, the kind used for school projects. He knelt down, took the brush, dipped it in the tin, and dragged it across the rough wood. The bristles caught on splinters. The yellow spread in a crooked line, bright against the gray. Maya clapped. "You're not bad!" "Don't lie," he said. She laughed, dipping her own brush in. They worked side by side, 2 uneven stripes at a time. His expensive watch brushed against old wood, picking up flecks of yellow. He didn't care. They didn't talk much. Once she asked, "Why do you wear such nice shoes if you're just going to paint?" He shrugged. "Habit." She giggled and dipped her brush again. "You should buy slippers. Easier to wash." 2 hours passed. The sun climbed higher. The door was half yellow, patchy and uneven, but alive somehow. Maya stepped back to look at it. Her cheeks were smudged with paint. She didn't notice. "I want to paint the cafe inside too. But we need more money," she said. Then she looked up, shy. "Not from you. I'll earn it, I promise." He wiped his fingers on an old rag. "How?" "I'll sell more tea. Maybe biscuits too. Drivers like biscuits." He didn't correct her. He didn't offer more cash. Instead, he asked, "Do you like doing this? Running this place?" She tilted her head, thinking, "I don't know. I just want Mama to smile. If the cafe looks nice, maybe more people will come. Then we can buy better tea, maybe a fridge too. I saw one in town. It has a light inside!" "Isn't that funny? A fridge with a light." He smiled despite himself. "It's useful when it's dark." She beamed. "One day, we'll have so many lights. This place will shine at night. Nobody will miss us." He looked at her small hands gripping the brush. She was hope itself. Covered in dust, paint and cheap dreams, yet shining brighter than his whole glass empire. When the tin was empty, they sat on the step outside, looking at their crooked masterpiece. Maya leaned against him lightly, like a kitten. He didn't move. He didn't dare. She asked, "Do you have a daughter?" The question hit him harder than he expected. He paused. "No." "Why not?" she said, childlike direct. "I never had time," he said. She frowned, like it didn't make sense. "You have time now." He laughed. The sound startled him more than her. "Maybe I do." She yawned and leaned harder. "If I was your daughter, I'd ask you to paint every day, and buy ice cream. And oh, take me to town in a big car. Big cars are overrated," he said. "Still," she grinned. "Promise you'll come back." He hesitated. He never promised. Promises were dangerous. They tied you down. But she was looking at him like he was the whole world, like she'd already decided he wouldn't break it. "Okay," he said, "I'll come back." She beamed and closed her eyes, resting her head against his arm. He sat there, half in sun, half in shadow, wondering when exactly he'd lost control of this small cafe girl and her yellow dreams. He left after she fell asleep inside, curled up on a bench beside her mother's cot. He didn't wake her. He just locked the door from outside, slid a folded note under the sugar tin. For more paint. The next week, his empire started noticing. Faraz knocked again. "Sir, the board wants you at the site visit. The new mall foundation is delayed. The press wants a statement." Arman didn't care. He sat at his desk scanning a list Faraz had left: medical supplies, new chairs, small fridge, paint tins, all things Faraz had quietly arranged for the cafe without attaching Arman's name. Faraz cleared his throat. "People are asking questions. About you going missing. About small payments from your personal account. It's not normal. Arman looked up. Do you think it's wrong? Faraz hesitated. No, sir. Just unexpected. You always said charity is inefficient. It is, Arman said. Then he closed the file. But people aren't numbers. Not all the time. Faraz didn't understand, but he didn't argue. He left quietly, shutting the big glass door behind him. A month later, Arman returned to the cafe with new paint tins stacked in his trunk. Maya saw him from the window and ran outside barefoot. You really came back. I promised, didn't I? He said. She jumped and clapped. Mama said we can paint the whole cafe this time. Inside too. Pink. Do you know how to paint pink? He almost said no, but he caught himself. I'll learn. So he spent half a day dragging old tables aside, covering the floor with torn newspaper, helping her coat the cracked walls in soft pink. It dried patchy. He offered to fix it properly. She said, no, I like it like this. It looks happy. They built a quiet routine after that. Once a month, Arman drove down himself. No convoy, no suit, no briefcase. He brought paint, rice, new cups, sometimes a bag of sweet biscuits. He never stayed long. Just long enough to drink her new, better coffee, check her mother's health, listen to Maya's endless chatter about her dream fridge and yellow door and school stories. She asked once, what do you do in the city? He smiled. I sign papers. That's boring, she said. He laughed. Sometimes, yes. One evening, as he was leaving, she grabbed his hand. If I grow up and go to the city, will you show me your big building? He looked at her tiny fingers wrapped around his. Yes, he said. Anytime. A promise. This time he didn't hesitate. Promise. Who? But outside, as he drove back alone, the city lights didn't feel like his anymore. The towers he'd built seemed smaller somehow, weaker than one crooked yellow door by the roadside that refused to fade. He knew he couldn't fix the world, but maybe he could keep this promise, just one, for her. A month later, Arman Shah sat alone in his office, lights dimmed, city lights flickering beyond the giant glass wall. His phone buzzed on the desk. Meetings, contracts, calls from board members, but he ignored them. Instead, he stared at a photo Faraz had sent that morning. Maya, grinning with paint on her nose, standing beside the cafe door, now completely yellow. A small hand-painted sign above her read Welcome Me. She'd written it herself. Letters crooked, colors bright. He saved the photo and looked at it again and again, like it could remind him why any of this mattered. Faraz entered quietly. Sir, there's a problem. Arman didn't look up. Which one? Faraz hesitated. Some reporter followed you last week. They have pictures. You unloading paint cans from your car. They're calling it a publicity stunt. Arman's jaw tightened. It's not. I know, sir. But the board thinks you're hiding something. A secret project. A political move. Arman's eyes narrowed. A secret child, he said dryly. Faraz almost smiled. Something like that. They want an explanation. They're worried about your image. They're asking if you want us to shut the cafe down. Arman stood so fast his chair rattled backward. Nobody touches that cafe. Faraz raised his hands. Understood. But maybe it's time to make this official. Donate openly. Or move them somewhere safer. Arman turned to the window, fists clenched. He hated the idea, turning Maya's world into a photo op. But he also knew secrets didn't survive in his world. Call a doctor, he said. A real one, for her mother, quietly. Get her checked properly. Faraz nodded. And Maya? Arman thought of her lopsided letters on that yellow door. See if she can start school nearby. I'll pay. Quietly, Faraz paused, searching his face. You care about this girl? Arman didn't answer. He didn't have to. 2 days later, he was back at the roadside cafe. This time, he brought a man with him, Dr. Kamal, a trusted family doctor who owed him more than one favor. They found Maya outside, sweeping the small dusty path. She saw Arman and squealed. You came, again, and you brought a friend. Arman smiled. This is Dr. Kamal. He's going to check on your mother. Maya's face fell for a second. Worry flickered in her big eyes, but then she nodded. Okay, come in. Inside, her mother lay on the cot, eyes half open. She tried to sit up when Arman entered, but he stopped her gently. Rest, let him work. Maya squeezed his hand as they watched the doctor unpack his small kit. Her fingers were cold. Is Mama okay? She whispered. She will be, he said, and hoped it wasn't a lie. Dr. Kamal did his work in silence. Maya sat on the floor, legs crossed, watching every move. Arman stood by the broken counter, arms folded, pretending he was somewhere else. A boardroom, an airport, anywhere but here, with the smell of cheap tea and old blankets clinging to him. When the doctor was done, he pulled Arman aside. She needs real care, nutrition, medicine, maybe a short hospital stay. Arman's face hardened. Arrange it. Maya heard him anyway. What's a hospital stay? She asked, tugging his sleeve. Arman knelt down. It means your mother will go somewhere clean, with real beds, good food, people who know how to help her breathe better. Maya's eyes widened. Will I go too? He hesitated. You'll stay here for a bit, but I'll come every day. She frowned, tiny lips pressed together. Promise. He looked at her mother, pale on the cot, then at Maya's small hand gripping his. Promise. 2 days later, a small ambulance came at night. No neighbors asked questions. Nobody cared enough about a roadside cafe. Maya held her mother's hand all the way to the hospital gates. Arman walked beside them, ignoring every call on his phone. When it was done, Maya stood outside the hospital, hugging her arms around herself. What if she doesn't come back? She will, Arman said firmly. You trust me, don't you? She nodded, but her eyes were wet. Will you stay at the cafe tonight? He almost said no. He had meetings at dawn, papers to sign, people waiting, but he looked down at her, dust on her shoes, paint under her nails, and said, yes, let's go. That night, he sat on a rickety chair beside her as she fell asleep on her mother's empty cot. He stared at the cracked ceiling, wondering when a powerful man's life had turned into this, waiting for a child's breathing to slow, counting dreams instead of profits. Morning came too soon. Maya woke up first, blinking at him. You stayed. He managed a tired smile. Of course. She sat up, hair a mess. When Mama comes back, she'll see how brave you are. He laughed softly. Brave? You're not scared of old beds or rats or the dark. She said proudly. You're like a hero. He wanted to tell her he wasn't, but her sleepy grin stopped him. Some lies were better than the truth. By the time her mother returned, 2 weeks later, the cafe looked a little different. New cups, a second-hand fridge humming in the corner, the cracked walls painted all the way pink and yellow. Maya had done it herself with help from a kind driver Arman paid to check in. Her mother cried when she saw it. She held Arman's hand with trembling fingers. Why are you doing this? She whispered. He could have said charity, guilt, nothing better to do. But Maya interrupted, hugging him from the side. Because he's our friend, she said simply. And maybe that was enough. But secrets hate sunlight. Good things draw curious eyes. One evening, as Arman helped Maya stack new boxes of tea behind the counter, 2 men in shiny shoes walked in. Reporters, easy to spot. Cheap smiles, fake politeness. One leaned on the counter. Mr. Shah, is this your cafe now? Is she your child? Are you planning to adopt her? Or is this just, what sir? A publicity stunt? Arman's jaw clenched. Maya peeked out from behind him, eyes wide, not understanding the words but sensing the threat in the air. It's none of your business, Arman said evenly. The other man lifted a phone. We're live, sir. Say a few words. The people want to know why the richest man in the city comes here every week. Is this your secret charity? Or something more scandalous? Arman stepped forward. Turn that off. The man didn't. He smirked instead. Smile for the people, Mr. Shah. Maybe let the little girl say something too. It'll look sweet. Before Arman could react, Maya stepped out from behind him. She faced the camera head on, chin up like a tiny soldier. Is my friend, she said. Her voice didn't shake. He helped fix our door and bought my mama medicine. That's all. Go away. For a heartbeat, the entire cafe went silent. The men blinked. They hadn't expected a child to speak truth so easily. Arman put his hand on her shoulder. You heard her. Go. They didn't argue. But he knew they'd post the clip anyway. By the time he drove Maya back to her small bed that night, the news was already online. Arman Shah's secret cafe. Who is the mystery child? That night, Maya asked him, "Are you in trouble?" He smoothed her hair back gently. "No, nothing will happen to you. Or your mother." She yawned, already half asleep. "If you get in trouble, I'll tell them you're good." He looked at her tiny fist curled on the blanket. She was braver than most men he knew. By the next morning, Faraz called. "Sir, it's everywhere. The board wants you to step back for a while. They're worried about the stock price. They think this makes you look soft." Arman almost laughed. Soft? He'd built towers, crushed rivals, survived boardroom wars. And yet a girl with paint on her nose had undone him in a few months. "Let them talk," he said. Faraz sighed. "What will you do?" Arman looked at Maya's photo on his desk. That yellow door behind her. Crooked letters. A promise. "Whatever I want," he said. And when he drove back to the cafe that evening, people were already there. Drivers stopping for chai, families curious about the cafe the CEO built. They didn't see the rust or the cracks anymore. They saw hope. Yellow and pink and crooked letters that said welcome. Maya ran to him. "Look, more people. They love it." He knelt down, hugged her tight. "They will always love it, as long as you're here." She giggled. "You too. You're stuck with us now." He looked at her mother, healthy again, standing in the doorway, wiping a cup with a smile that said thank you without a word. He looked at the crowd. At the sunset. At the door he'd painted once with a child who thought big cars were silly and promises were sacred. For once in his life, Arman Shah didn't care who was watching. Some things were worth the cost. Even secrets, even headlines, even him. A month later, the cafe didn't look like a roadside shack anymore. The broken sign was gone, replaced with a bright wooden board that said Maya's Place. She'd painted it herself, standing on a chair, tongue stuck out in concentration while Arman held her steady. Inside, the shelves were lined with new jars of tea leaves, sugar, and biscuits in glass jars. A small fridge hummed in the corner, stocked with cold drinks. The old tables were gone, replaced by simple wooden ones, smooth and sturdy. Every evening, Maya wiped them clean, humming under her breath. And every evening, Arman watched her like he was guarding something more valuable than his entire company. Cute, but not everyone was happy. Faraz came by one afternoon, looking more tired than usual. He watched Maya chase a stray cat around the back door before turning to Arman. "The board is ready to push you out, sir. They say your charity is distracting you." Arman poured him tea. "It's not charity." "I know. But they don't care. They see headlines, rumors. They want you back in your suit, signing deals." Arman took a sip. The tea was too sweet. Maya made it that way for him on purpose. "And if I don't?" he asked. Faraz sighed. "They'll vote you out. Quietly. You'll lose the seat, maybe the company too." Arman looked around the cafe. The cracked walls were gone. The door didn't squeak anymore. Maya's mother was at the back, counting coins with a small smile on her face, and Maya herself, barefoot, hair tied in two messy braids, ran up to him, waving a crumpled paper. Look what I drew!" She beamed. He took the paper. A child's drawing, stick figures, a small cafe with a yellow door, a girl, a man standing beside her. Above them she'd written "My friend forever." He smiled, folded it neatly, slipped it in his pocket like it was worth more than any contract. Faraz watched him carefully. "So, what will you choose?" Arman looked at his oldest friend. "You ever wonder what all the money was for?" Faraz shrugged. "You said you wanted to build an empire?" "I did," Arman said. He looked at Maya, who was already chasing the cat again. "And then I found something better." 2. The next day, Arman walked into the boardroom, not in a suit, but in the same worn shirt he wore at the cafe. The men sitting at the polished table stared at him, uncomfortable. One cleared his throat. "Mr. Shah, we appreciate what you've done for the company, but your personal projects are hurting our reputation." Arman didn't sit. He looked each man in the eye. "You're right, so I'm leaving." Silence. Someone dropped a pen. "You what?" He shrugged. "Sell my shares. Put my name off the letterhead. I'm done." The oldest board member leaned forward. "You built this, Arman. You can't just walk away." Arman almost laughed. "Watch me." Yeah, an hour later, he stepped out into the sunlight, no title in his pocket, no office to go back to. Just the memory of crooked letters on a yellow door. He drove straight to the café. That evening, Maya found him sitting on the floor, hammer in hand, fixing a loose plank under the counter. "You're always fixing something," she giggled, dropping beside him. He smiled. "Better than breaking things." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Did you fix the big building too, the one you told me about?" He paused, then shook his head. "No, I left it. It's not mine anymore." She blinked at him, puzzled. "Why?" He looked at her. Small, fearless, unafraid to ask questions grown men tiptoed around. "Because this is mine now," he said. He tapped the counter. "This place. Your mama. That's enough." She tilted her head. "You're weird," she decided. He laughed, the sound echoing in the small room. Maybe. Q2 later that night, when her mother came to close up, she found Arman outside, staring at the cafe sign. "Thank you," she said softly. Her voice was stronger now, less of a whisper, more of a promise. He nodded. "You don't owe me anything." She shook her head. "You gave us more than money. You gave her hope. And me too." He looked at the lights glowing warm inside. He didn't say I needed it too. But he knew she heard it anyway. A week later, Maya stood at the side of the road, watching cars pass. Every time a traveler stopped for tea, she greeted them with a grin that could melt stone. Sometimes they asked if the rumors were true. If Arman Shah, the big CEO, really worked here now. Maya always said the same thing: "He's my friend. He likes tea." And when they laughed, Arman would just shrug. Let them wonder. Let them take photos. Let them gossip. Some truths didn't need explaining. On the cafe door, right under Maya's place, a second small sign appeared a month later. Hand-painted just like the first. Open for everyone. No one leaves hungry. People came. Drivers, travelers, villagers. Some paid, some didn't. No one asked questions. And Arman, once the richest man in the city, found himself brewing tea, carrying plates, wiping tables. Smiling like he hadn't smiled in years. One night, long after the last customer left, Maya curled up beside him on the same old cot. "Will you go away again?" she asked sleepily. He looked at the cracked ceiling, the same ceiling where he'd once sat counting secrets. "No," he said. "Never again." She yawned. "Promise." He kissed her forehead gently. "Promise." Outside, trucks rumbled by, headlights flashed in the dark. But inside Maya's place, the light stayed warm, the tea stayed sweet, and the man who once had everything found exactly what he needed. A door painted yellow, a sign that said welcome, and a little girl who believed him when he said forever. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe to the channel. Tell us in the comments what you learned from this video. Thank you for watching!